Okay, Algebra 2, so we're moving on to our next section, right? And we did it a little bit different than what I've done in the past, and usually we would hit this a little earlier, but we're going to do rational functions for this next unit. So first off, I want to just tell you guys what a rational expression is, right? And then we're going to look at how we can simplify them down a little bit. Right? So first off, what a rational expression is a ratio. So when we're dealing with rationals, we are going to be looking at a fraction that has a polynomial in the numerator and the denominator. That means it's going to have a variable, for the most part, in the numerator and the denominator. Okay? So the way that we can simplify these guys down is pretty simple. Okay? First off, we're going to factor everything that can be factored. Okay? Number two, we're going to simplify our monomials. Okay? We're going to use our exponent rules. And then number three, we're going to eliminate common binomial factors. Okay? So those things that we're trying to eliminate are when we have the same exact thing in our numerator and our denominator. Right? So we're going to start out real simple. With number one, you'll notice that we just have 20x to the 6 over 14x squared. And to simplify this down, we just simplify it down like we would simplify any other fraction. 20 over 14, it looks like 2 goes into both those guys, right? So I can simplify 20 over 14 to 10 over 7 by dividing each one by 2. And then x to the 6 over x squared, remember I use my exponent rules here. 6 minus 2 gives me x to the 4th. And just like that, I'm simplified down. Sometimes, right, we're going to have to factor. This guy, number one, we didn't, but for number two, you'll see 6k minus 36, there is a GCF there in our numerator. It's 6. So I could rewrite this, I could pull out a 6, and I'm going to have k minus 6 left over. And what you'll notice here is that we have a common binomial, right? And that means that we have the exact same binomial in our numerator and our denominator, k minus 6 and k minus 6. So those guys can cancel. So that gives us an answer of just 6. Okay, sometimes we're going to have to factor trinomials. Like if you check out number 3, we have y plus 8 over y squared plus 2y minus 48. So that y squared plus 2y minus 48 can be factored down. Okay, it's going to be y, and then remember the way we choose these numbers here are we think what multiplies to negative 48 and also combines to positive 2. And that's going to be positive 8 and negative 6. So I'm going to rewrite these guys, excuse me, as y plus 8 times y minus 6. And you guys see that common binomial? Y plus 8 and y plus 8. When we have our entire numerator canceled, but there's still something in the denominator, we just put a 1 up in the numerator. That's why I got 1 over y minus 6, and that'll be my answer. Okay, sometimes we might even have to do even more factoring. Like in number 4, I've noticed on my numerator, 2 is a GCF. So I could pull that out. So I divided everything by 2 in that numerator. In my denominator, 8 is a GCF. And I get something like that. But I have to continue on and make sure I continue to factor this guy down. So my next step is the r squared minus r minus 20. That's a trinomial, just like in our previous example here. I have to break it up into r, and then two numbers that multiply to negative 20 and combine to negative 1 are negative 5 and positive 4. Okay, I didn't do anything else to my denominators, that stays the same. And then keep an eye out for two things. If you can find any common binomials, you can cross them out. R plus 4 over R plus 4 cancels. And then 2 over 8 reduces down to 1 over 4, right? 2 goes into both of them. So my final answer is going to be r minus 5 over 4. Okay, so for number 5, okay, you got to be a little careful. First off, I'm going to teach you this little deal here. A minus B over B minus A. Whenever you see something like that, and see how both these guys are subtracted, there's just doing it in a different order. A minus B on top, B minus A. If you ever notice you have that, that's actually simplifies down to -1. Okay, so when we take a look at number 5, you'll notice up top we have a difference of squares. P squared minus 49. P squared is a perfect square. 49 is a perfect square. So those ones factor down real easily into P plus 7 and P minus 7. And if you check out the P minus 7 and the 7 minus P, that's exactly like that scenario we just outlined here. So these guys cancel, but when we cancel them, they don't cancel down to just 1, they cancel down to -1. So we're going to get negative out in front of our P plus 7 there. And then just to simplify it down as far as possible, I'm going to distribute that negative and get negative P minus 7 is what that simplifies down to. Okay, let's check out a few more. With these ones, if you're feeling up to it, go ahead and try them and pause the video and then check back in and you can see my work. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of talk through each of them. So this first guy up here, it's tempting to go ahead and think, oh, I got 12a cubed over 12a cubed, cancel it. No, you can't do that because we have this addition and subtraction, okay, and that messes up our ability to cancel these out. So we have to wait until we factor everything. So up top, I can factor out a 3a, and I'm left with 4a squared minus 1. On the bottom, I can factor out, it looks like 6a squared, and I'm left with 2a plus 1. Right? And then always look to see if you can factor further. 4a squared minus 1, that's actually a difference of squares. Just like p squared minus 49 was in number 5, 4a squared is a perfect square, and 1 is a perfect square. So I'm going to factor that guy down to 2a plus 1 times 2a minus 1. And now you'll see a lot of things that can cancel. I have 2a plus 1 on the top and bottom. And then 3 over 6 is going to become 1 over 2 when I reduce it. And also I have an a here, and down below I have a squared, so that a can be canceled with one of the a's down there. So let's check out what we have left. We have 2a minus 1 on top, right? And then on bottom we have, it looks like 2a. Once again, remember you can't cancel these because that numerator has a minus 1. So this would actually be our final answer there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at number 7. Okay, this one's a little bit tougher. Okay, we can go ahead and do some factoring here, and we end up being able to pull a 2 out of the numerator, and that gives us 3n squared plus 4n plus 1. In the denominator, we have a 2 we can pull out, and we're left with n squared minus 1. And there's some serious factoring we can do. Up top, this guy, we're going to have to use one of our methods where a is not equal to 1. So it's going to be 3n and n. And in this case, we're going to have plus 1 and plus 1. And then down below, the n squared minus 1 is the difference of squares. So I can rewrite that as n plus 1 times n minus 1. And just that same difference of squares we saw in numbers 5 and 6. And check it out. The n plus 1's cancel. The 2's cancel. And our final answer is going to be 3n plus 1 over n minus 1. Okay, so we got one more I want to show you, number 8. Before we practice, this guy up top, I have a GCF of 5, so I'm going to pull a 5 out, and that leaves me with 9 minus w. And down below, it looks like I have 3w squared minus 28w plus 9. Okay, so this one doesn't have a GCF, but we can factor it, using one of our methods for when a is equal to something greater than 1. So I'm going to do 3w and w. And I'm going to quickly do this one in my head. It's going to be minus 1 and minus 9. And what you'll notice is up top we have 9 minus w. Below we have w minus 9. That's this situation right here, right? So these guys cancel, but we're going to have to put out a negative in front. And that'll be our answer right there. Okay, so I want you to practice this a little bit today by going over to homework 1. Remember the link to your student notes is going to be right on Google Classroom. It should have uploaded at 7:55 today. So it has your notes, the student packet, which is the one I usually give out to you, but unfortunately I can't give you out now. And then we also have the homework answers and the test review answers there. And remember, my office hours are from 11 to 1. Please just contact me if you have any questions.